My fiancé told me she needed to find her purpose before marriage. Then I found her LinkedIn profile. Recently single entrepreneur seeking opportunities. I created a fake company profile, offered her a job interview, and arranged a meeting. When she showed up, I was sitting there in my wedding dress. I, 32M, thought I had everything figured out. 3 years together, engaged for 8 months, wedding planned for next spring. Then she dropped the bomb that shattered everything I believed about us. It started on a Tuesday evening. She came home from work looking distant. That same expression she'd been wearing for weeks. I asked if everything was okay, and she said we needed to talk. My stomach dropped because nothing good ever follows those words. She sat across from me at our kitchen table, the same table where we'd planned our honeymoon just 2 months earlier. She told me she needed space to find her purpose before we got married. She said she felt lost, like she was living someone else's life, and that rushing into marriage would be a mistake. She needed time to figure out who she really was. I sat there stunned as she explained that she wanted to postpone the wedding indefinitely. She said she loved me, but couldn't marry me until she discovered her true calling. She talked about feeling trapped in her corporate job, about dreams she'd never pursued, about needing to explore opportunities she'd been too scared to chase. Part of me understood. We'd been together since college, moved in together right after graduation, fallen into a comfortable routine. Maybe she did need space to grow. I told her I supported her journey of self-discovery, even though every word felt like swallowing glass. She moved out the following weekend. I helped her pack, watched her load boxes into her car, kissed her goodbye like it was temporary. She promised we'd stay in touch, that this wasn't goodbye forever, just a pause. I believed her because I needed to. The first month was brutal. I threw myself into work, avoided our favorite restaurants, slept on the couch because our bed felt too empty. Friends kept asking about the wedding, and I had to explain over and over that we were taking a break. Some looked at me with pity, others with confusion. A few suggested I was being naive. I tried reaching out to her after 6 weeks. I sent a text asking how she was doing, if she'd found any clarity. She responded politely but distantly, saying she was still figuring things out and needed more time. I gave her space, convinced that patience would bring her back. 2 months after she left, curiosity got the better of me. I hadn't checked her social media since she moved out, respecting her request for space. But late one night, scrolling through my phone, I decided to see how she was doing. Her Instagram showed nothing unusual. A few photos of coffee shops, some sunset pictures, generic motivational quotes about finding yourself. But something nagged at me. She'd always been active on LinkedIn for work, and I wondered if her professional life offered any clues about this soul-searching journey. I opened LinkedIn and searched for her profile. What I found made my blood turn to ice. Her status read, recently single entrepreneur seeking opportunities. Recently single. Not taking a break. Not finding herself. Single. I stared at my phone screen, reading those words over and over. Recently single entrepreneur. She'd updated her relationship status, removed all photos of us, and was actively networking as a single woman. The bio talked about her exciting new venture in sustainable fashion, her passion for environmental causes, her availability for consulting opportunities. This wasn't a woman taking time to find herself. This was a woman who'd already found herself and decided I wasn't part of that picture. I scrolled through her recent activity. She'd been posting regularly, sharing articles about entrepreneurship, commenting on industry discussions, building a professional network. She'd even posted about attending a startup networking event just last week, smiling in a group photo with other young entrepreneurs. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. While I'd been respecting her space, grieving our relationship, and telling people we were working things out, she'd been building a new life without me. She'd lied about needing time to find herself. She'd already found herself, and apparently, herself didn't include a fiancé. I spent the next 3 days in a haze of anger and hurt. I called in sick to work, barely ate, and obsessed over her LinkedIn profile. I read every post, analyzed every connection, tried to piece together the timeline of her deception. That's when the idea hit me. If she was so eager to network and explore new opportunities, maybe I could give her exactly what she was looking for. I created a fake company profile on LinkedIn. Sterling Environmental Solutions, a boutique consulting firm specializing in sustainable business practices. I crafted a professional website, complete with stock photos and carefully worded mission statements about environmental responsibility and innovative solutions. The profile looked legitimate. I'd worked in marketing long enough to know how to build a convincing brand presence. I gave myself a fake name and title, created a backstory about being a successful entrepreneur looking to expand my team. Then I reached out to her. I sent a professional message through the Sterling Environmental Solutions account, explaining that I'd come across her profile and was impressed by her passion for sustainability. I mentioned that we were looking for a consultant to help launch a new initiative and wondered if she'd be interested in discussing opportunities. She responded within hours. Her message was enthusiastic and professional, thanking me for reaching out and expressing genuine interest in learning more about the position. She attached her resume and suggested we schedule a call to discuss the opportunity in detail. Reading her eager response, I felt a mixture of satisfaction and disgust. This was the woman who'd told me she needed space to find herself, yet here she was, jumping at the first professional opportunity that came her way. It confirmed what I'd suspected. She hadn't been confused about her path. She'd been planning her exit. I scheduled a video call for the following week, giving myself time to prepare. I researched sustainable business practices, studied environmental consulting trends, and practiced speaking in a slightly different voice. I wore a baseball cap and glasses during the call, kept the lighting dim, and positioned myself so only part of my face was visible. The conversation went perfectly. She was articulate, passionate, and clearly knowledgeable about environmental issues. She talked about her vision for sustainable fashion, her ideas for reducing corporate waste, her excitement about making a real impact. She was impressive, and under different circumstances, I might have been proud of her. But these weren't different circumstances. This was the woman who destroyed our relationship under false pretenses, and I was gathering evidence of her deception. I told her I was very interested in working with her and suggested we meet in person to discuss the details. I proposed meeting at an upscale hotel downtown, in their business center conference room. Professional, public, perfect for our purposes. She agreed immediately, suggesting the following Friday afternoon. She said she was excited about the opportunity and looked forward to meeting face to face. After we hung up, I sat in my apartment planning the confrontation. I wanted her to understand the depth of her betrayal, to face the consequences of her lies. But I also wanted to do it in a way that would be memorable, that would make her think about her choices long after our meeting ended. That's when I remembered our wedding dress. It was hanging in my closet, still in its protective bag, a beautiful white gown we'd chosen together during happier times. She'd tried it on dozens of times, twirling in front of the mirror, talking about how perfect our wedding day would be. The plan crystallized in my mind. If she wanted to play games, if she wanted to pretend our relationship had never mattered, then I'd give her a reminder of exactly what she'd thrown away. Friday arrived gray and drizzly, matching my mood perfectly. I spent the morning getting ready with the same care I would have taken for our actual wedding day. I did my hair, applied makeup carefully, and slipped into the dress that was supposed to represent the happiest day of my life. Looking in the mirror, I felt a strange mixture of sadness and determination. The dress still fit perfectly, still looked beautiful, but now it represented something entirely different. Instead of hope and love, it symbolized betrayal and revenge. I arrived at the hotel early, checked in with the front desk, and made my way to the conference room I'd reserved. The space was elegant but sterile, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. I positioned myself at the head of the long conference table, arranged some fake documents in front of me, and waited. She arrived exactly on time, looking professional in a navy blazer and carrying a leather portfolio. I watched through the glass walls as she approached the conference room, checking her phone one last time before knocking on the door. I called for her to come in, and she opened the door with a confident smile that immediately froze on her face. The recognition was instant. Her eyes widened, her mouth fell open, and she stood frozen in the doorway, staring at me in my wedding dress, sitting at the conference table like this was the most natural thing in the world. I gestured to the chair across from me and told her to please have a seat, that we had a lot to discuss. My voice was calm, professional, as if I were conducting any other business meeting. She stammered, asking what I was doing there, what this was about, why I was wearing that dress. Her composure had completely shattered, and she looked between me and the door like she was considering running. I explained that I was Sterling Environmental Solutions, that I'd created the company specifically to arrange this meeting. I told her I'd seen her LinkedIn profile, read about her status as a recently single entrepreneur, and thought it was time we had an honest conversation about her journey of self-discovery. She tried to defend herself, saying she could explain everything, that it wasn't what it looked like. But I cut her off, telling her that her LinkedIn profile had made everything perfectly clear. She hadn't been finding herself. She'd been reinventing herself without me. I asked her when she'd decided our relationship was over. Was it before she asked for space, or had she come to that conclusion during her supposed soul-searching period? I wanted to know when exactly she'd chosen to lie to me instead of having an honest conversation about our future. She sat down heavily, her professional facade crumbling completely. She admitted that she'd been having doubts about our relationship for months before she moved out. She said she'd felt trapped, like she was living a life that didn't belong to her, but she hadn't known how to tell me without hurting me. I pointed out that lying to me and stringing me along had hurt me far more than honesty would have. I told her about the weeks I'd spent respecting her space, the conversations with friends and family where I defended her need for self-discovery, the hope I'd maintained that we were just taking a temporary break. She started crying, saying she'd never meant for things to go this far, that she'd been scared and confused and had handled everything wrong. She said she did love me, but she'd realized we wanted different things from life. I asked her why she hadn't just told me that from the beginning. Why create an elaborate story about finding her purpose when the truth was that she'd already found it, and it didn't include me? She said she'd been afraid of my reaction, afraid of hurting me, afraid of admitting that she'd outgrown our relationship. She'd thought that asking for space would be kinder than breaking up outright, that maybe time apart would help us both figure out what we really wanted. I told her that what I'd really wanted was honesty, respect, and the chance to process the end of our relationship like an adult. Instead, she'd left me in limbo, hoping for a reconciliation that was never going to happen while she built a new life as a single woman. The conversation continued for another hour. She apologized repeatedly, acknowledged that she'd handled everything wrong, and admitted that she should have been honest from the beginning. She said she'd been selfish and cowardly, and that she understood why I was angry. But her apologies felt hollow. She was sorry she'd been caught, sorry the situation had become complicated, but I didn't sense any real remorse for the pain she'd caused. She seemed more concerned with managing the awkwardness of the situation than with taking responsibility for her choices. As our conversation wound down, I stood up and smoothed the skirt of my wedding dress. I told her that I'd worn it today because I wanted her to see exactly what she'd thrown away, not just our relationship, but the future we'd planned together. I explained that the dress represented more than just a wedding. It represented trust, commitment, and the belief that we were building something together. By lying to me, she destroyed all of that, and I wanted her to have a visual reminder of the magnitude of her betrayal. She asked what happened now, whether I could ever forgive her, if there was any chance we could work things out. The questions felt absurd given everything that had transpired. I told her that forgiveness might come eventually, but reconciliation was impossible. She'd shown me who she really was when faced with a difficult situation, and that person wasn't someone I could trust with my heart or my future. I gathered my fake documents and headed toward the door. Before leaving, I turned back and told her that I hoped her new life as a recently single entrepreneur brought her everything she was looking for. I meant it sincerely, even though I knew we'd never speak again. Update 1. The confrontation happened 3 weeks ago, and I'm still processing everything that occurred. The immediate aftermath was surprisingly anticlimactic. I drove home in my wedding dress, hung it back in the closet, and sat in my apartment feeling emotionally drained but oddly satisfied. She tried calling me that evening, but I didn't answer. She sent several text messages over the next few days, asking if we could talk, saying she wanted to explain things better, insisting that she really had been confused about what she wanted. I didn't respond to any of her messages. What was there left to say? She'd had months to be honest with me, and she'd chosen deception instead. Her explanations and apologies felt too little, too late. I did take down the Sterling Environmental Solutions website and LinkedIn profile. The whole thing had served its purpose, and I didn't want to leave fake business information floating around the internet. Part of me felt slightly guilty about the deception, but mostly I felt like she'd gotten exactly what she deserved. Friends started noticing that I seemed different, lighter somehow. When they asked about the wedding plans, I finally told them the truth, that we'd broken up, that she'd been dishonest about her reasons for wanting space, and that I was moving forward with my life. The reactions were mixed. Some people were shocked by her behavior. Others weren't entirely surprised. A few friends admitted they'd had concerns about our relationship, but hadn't known how to bring them up. Apparently, several people had noticed that she seemed checked out during our engagement party, going through the motions, but not really present. My sister was furious when I told her the whole story. She said she'd never liked my ex-fiancé, that something had always felt off about her, but she'd kept quiet because I seemed happy. She was proud of me for the confrontation, calling it brilliant and well-deserved. My parents were more concerned about my emotional well-being than impressed by my revenge plot. They worried that the elaborate scheme suggested I wasn't processing the breakup in a healthy way. They might have a point, but I don't regret what I did. The truth is, I needed that confrontation. I needed to see her face when she realized she'd been caught in her lies. I needed to hear her admit that she'd been dishonest and selfish. Without that closure, I think I would have spent months wondering if I'd misunderstood the situation or been too harsh in my judgment. Now I know exactly where we stand. She's moved on with her life, and I can move on with mine. Update 2. It's been 2 months since the hotel confrontation, and life has settled into a new normal. I've started therapy to work through the trust issues and anger that came from being deceived so thoroughly by someone I loved. My therapist has helped me understand that while my feelings of betrayal were completely valid, the elaborate revenge plot might have been more about my need for control than actual closure. She's probably right, but I still don't regret it. I've also started dating again. Nothing serious yet, but it feels good to put myself out there. The experience with my ex taught me to pay attention to red flags I might have ignored before. I'm more direct about my expectations and more willing to have difficult conversations early in relationships. Interestingly, I heard through mutual friends that my ex's sustainable fashion venture never got off the ground. Apparently, she'd been talking a big game about entrepreneurship, but hadn't actually developed a viable business plan. The whole thing fell apart within a few months of our confrontation. Part of me wonders if her career struggles are connected to what happened between us, if the stress of maintaining her lies and managing the fallout affected her ability to focus on her goals. But mostly, I don't think about her anymore. I've kept the wedding dress. I'm not sure why, but I can't bring myself to sell it or donate it. Maybe someday I'll wear it for someone who actually wants to marry me. Someone who won't lie about needing to find herself when what she really needs is to find the courage to be honest. For now, it hangs in my closet as a reminder of what I learned from this experience. That love without honesty is worthless, that trust once broken is nearly impossible to rebuild, and that sometimes the most satisfying revenge is simply showing someone exactly what they've lost. I'm not proud of the deception I used to arrange our final meeting, but I'm proud of how I handled the aftermath. I didn't beg, didn't try to convince her to come back, didn't accept her excuses or half-hearted apologies. I recognized that her actions had shown me who she really was, and I chose to believe what I saw rather than what she said. The whole experience taught me that closure isn't something someone else can give you. It's something you create for yourself by accepting reality and choosing to move forward. The wedding dress confrontation gave me the information I needed to accept that reality, and for that, I'm grateful. Looking back, I think I always knew our relationship was in trouble. There had been signs for months that she was pulling away, becoming distant, going through the motions of our life together without really being present. I'd chosen to ignore those signs because I wanted our relationship to work, because I loved the idea of our future together more than I was willing to examine the reality of our present. The LinkedIn discovery forced me to confront the truth I'd been avoiding, that she'd already checked out of our relationship long before she asked for space. The lies about finding her purpose were just her way of avoiding an honest conversation about the fact that she didn't want to marry me. In a strange way, I'm grateful for the whole experience. It taught me to trust my instincts, to value honesty above comfort, and to recognize that sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is to let them go, even when it hurts. I'm building a new life now, one based on authenticity rather than the illusion of perfect compatibility. It's scarier than the comfortable routine I had before, but it's also more honest. And after everything I've been through, honesty feels like the most important thing in the world. The wedding dress still hangs in my closet, but it doesn't make me sad anymore. Instead, it reminds me of my own strength, my ability to face difficult truths, and my commitment to never again accepting lies in place of love. Someday, when I'm ready, I'll find someone who deserves to see me in that dress, someone who won't need to find herself because she'll already know that what she wants is a life with me. Until then, I'm content to focus on my own journey of self-discovery, the real kind that doesn't require lying to the people you claim to love.